agree with my position.
Welcome back to Open Line. Representative Mike Stewart is here. He's here for the first half of the show. Obviously, we were talking about the transgender bathroom bill. This show, we're going to transition into another issue that Representative Stewart has been front and center on in the legislature this year, gun laws. And you proposed a bill that would have mandated background checks.
That's correct.
And in doing so, you did something that I haven't seen, certainly in the legislature. Well, you can explain it. You brought a gun to a committee meeting that you had bought the night before. Is that right?
Yes, I had, my bill was up in the morning at 9 o'clock, so at about 5:30 the night before, I got on Arms List, or it was one of those websites, and looked around, and I found an AR-15 assault rifle for sale, and made arrangements to go purchase it, and an hour and a half later it was in the front seat of my car. No background check, no license check, no nothing. I just handed $750 to somebody and got the weapon.
And what was that proving?
Well, what I wanted to show is that you can buy very powerful, very lethal weaponry with no background check at all. A lot of people don't understand that, because we all know if you go to Walmart, if you go to a licensed firearm dealer, you have a background check done before you purchase a weapon, whether it's a pistol or a rifle. And so they run your name through the FBI database, and if you're a felon, if you're on a terrorist watch list, you're not allowed to purchase the weapon. The problem is there is what's called a gun show loophole that's in federal law. It says if it's a private sale, you don't have to have a background check. Well, I don't know if that made sense way back in the 70s and 80s when maybe a background check was really hard to do, but I think we all know now with technology, it's the easiest thing in the world. It takes a few minutes. And so there's just no reason anymore not to require private sellers to get a background check. And you know, because basically if I was on a terrorist watch list, if I was a terrorist suspected of terrorism, you know, I could have with no difficulty taken $750 in cash and bought that weapon. And it's essentially the same weapon that I used to carry around in the military. Back when I was in the U.S. Army, our equivalent M16 was full automatic, had a full auto function, but that, I think that was gotten rid of while I was in the military. It went to a burst. So the point is, the weapon I bought in a parking lot in Nashville on about an hour and 20 minutes notice is militarily the equivalent of the weapon I used to carry in Korea on the demilitarized zone. It's a very powerful military weapon. You can kill a lot of people with it. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you're not a felon, fine, go buy it. But why do we not want to have background checks to make sure that we exclude drug dealers, hardened criminals, people with lengthy felony, you know, records of felonies, records of violence? Why do we not want those people excluded? I think we obviously do. You
recorded the whole transaction and showed it in that committee. Was there a surprise? Were you surprised by any aspect of that transaction? How quickly it happened, or just any, were you surprised by it?
You know, I was really surprised. I knew in theory that you could do it, and I didn't record one part of the transaction was actually dealing with the person who sold it, because of course that person was completely acting legally. That was the problem, I thought, but they weren't doing anything wrong. You know, I filmed it. I think what was surprising was just how easy it was. In other words, I didn't even have to plan it like you might have to plan to buy a car. Literally, I didn't even think about buying the weapon until about 5:30, and I had the weapon in the front seat of my car at 7, and I actually had to go make change to purchase it. So I mean, from the time I thought about getting it till the time I had the weapon available, all I had to do if I wanted to rob a bank at that point was drive over right nearby and pick up some rounds at Walmart, and I've been ready to go. And again, this was a weapon that, you know, really, that's a very powerful military weapon. You know, if I robbed a store, I mean, I could hold off, you know, 2 or 3 policemen with it. You know, I mean, it's a really significant weapon, and I don't think you should be able to buy one of those without a background check.
How difficult was it to get it in the legislature? What kind of, what did you have to go through there?
I mean, because I'm a state representative, I could get it in because I have a parking, I can park underneath and do it. And the state troopers know me. I think, obviously, if you walked in to the state legislature, we don't allow weapons like that right now. So if you walked in holding it, the state troopers would stop you. I arranged for a state trooper to come get the weapon, check it, make sure it was disarmed, and actually use a plastic band so that everybody in the committee would know that it was unloaded and that there was no danger. And then I had the state trooper escort the weapon from my vehicle to the room and then out. So it was always under supervision of a law enforcement officer, and I just want to make sure people weren't scared of the weapon.
Your bill failed. It didn't pass that committee. Several on the committee were not impressed. One said he was disappointed by the show you put on. What did you think about the reaction that you got? Did you expect that? Did you expect to change minds? So it failed, and there was disappointment in the show you put on. Was that what you expected, or what did you think of that reaction?
I think I'm not disappointed in the show, really, for this reason. I myself knew, I'm the guy who authored the bill, and I myself knew theoretically that you could buy weapons with a background check. I was very surprised to how easy it was. In other words, I was surprised that if you wanted to rob a bank tomorrow, if one of us did, we have plenty of time to get all the guns we need by tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. We can get that done right now and be in a parking lot in an hour picking up weapons. Probably fine for you and for me, but for somebody who's got a lengthy record of violent felonies, that's not fine. And yet, under our current law, completely possible, because there's no requirement that anybody check a person's background to sell them a powerful firearm. So again, if I'm a bank robber, I've got 10 bank robberies on my record. I just got out of prison. I can get on the phone if I've got $20,000, and I could apparently go buy 20 assault rifles and plenty of ammo, and I'm ready to roll. That's just not the way. That's not the way we should operate.
I'm going to start taking calls here. I don't know what we're going to get. Probably a lot of both sides. But this debate's gone on for a long time. We know the power of the NRA. You have a position here that's in direct conflict with that. Do you expect to make progress in what you're hoping for, background checks and that kind of thing?
On this one issue, on background checks, I guarantee you at some point we will pass this law, because 80% of Tennesseans, including most gun owners, are completely in favor of universal background checks. It's actually a very small group of people that are against it. I don't even know really what the counter arguments are. I understand back years ago it may have been so difficult for people to do background checks that maybe that's why we had this exception. But there's just no reason now. Everybody understands now with computer technology these checks can be done in an instant, and there's just no good argument against this bill and against background checks, and the vast majority of citizens are for it. I think this is an area where opponents are just out of step with most people, and when that happens, eventually the people as a whole are going to win.
All right, we have a bunch of calls. I'm told we have to take a break. Then I'm going to come back. We're going to just take all the calls. So hold on the line. We'll take this commercial break, then come back, and we'll just start taking the calls. Be back right after this.